Hey everyone!
Hey, good morning.
Hey everyone, my name is Amanda and this is my dad Rob, and we are going to be showing you today how to do a batten board wall. We've heard it's easy.
Yeah, it doesn't look too complicated, right?
Yeah.
So we'll give it a go.
We want to thank Rona for sponsoring this video. So everything that we are using today you can find at Rona, and we will also have it linked below. But let's get to it. That's the reason why you came here.
Likely you've already gotten to this point, the inspiration. One place I suggest finding inspiration if you're not 100% sure where to find it is on Pinterest. This is where I found all of these incredible blogs and so many different designs. We were most inspired from this one, a simple design, so now it is time to prep and measure for our first trial.
The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to measure the wall, and then we have to figure out where the slats are going. So if you're measuring your wall, these are the couple things that we want you to keep in mind.
Generally, homes aren't perfect. So when you're measuring your wall, you're going to measure the top of the wall, the middle of the wall, the bottom of the wall, and along the way, just to make sure you find some consistency here. Now, the whole goal is to find out how many materials you need, and as well to incorporate the design. We are doing the boxes, so to make it easy, we're trying to figure out how many are going to go up and down, and as well fill in for the framing. I'll have my dad explain that a little more.
So 4 plus the 2, 4, 5, 6. So you're gonna need 6.
You want to count how many squares you're going to need, keeping in mind that the batten is around 4 inches thick. So if you want to have really small squares on your wall, that's totally up to you. That could be your style. We're going for a little bit more of a modern square look, bigger squares on the wall, really creating some dimension. So right now, Dad's figuring out how many lateral slats we need. Because the wall is 125 inches wide, we were thinking it would be good to get 6 up and down, keeping in mind that you're also framing this wall, so the batten is going to be on the very outside and the very top and the very bottom as well.
All right, so the wall, just rough, is 8 feet. We're gonna do one at every 2, so that makes 3 in the middle, plus the 2 outside. So we're gonna need 4 going across the wall. So we got 6 and 4. Plus these are gonna be longer because the wall is longer, so we'll probably have to add another 2 at least. Just I'll always bring home a bit more wood. You can always take it back. You don't want to run out halfway through your project and have to run to the store again.
So let me explain to you by showing you, because sometimes hearing that I wouldn't exactly know what to do. So after measuring your wall, you're now trying to figure out what materials you need. So that 125 inches, that's around 10.5 feet, a little bit less. So you're definitely gonna need at least one 12-foot board so that you don't have a cut in between. If you can do this with 8 feet boards. So what I'm doing now is putting down some measurements and trying to figure out, how many boards are we gonna need? As well, how that pattern is gonna look. The bottom layer of those boxes are going to be less than a square, and also keeping in mind the plugs. We got very, very lucky with where those placements were, because you may have to cut out some batten to make those plugs fit. Now, here are the measurements, that 10.5 feet by 8 feet, but keeping in mind that some of that batten is going to be removed from that 8 feet, so you are going to have to make cuts again with that. We'll get at least 2 12-foot boards because those are the first ones we'll put up. Up and down, you can see that there are 6 of those green slats and then 4 extra ones for the in-between pieces. So at least we are going to need 2 12 feet and then as well 10 8 feet, but we're going to grab an extra one just in case, and also have to see if they have this in stock.
At this point, you're allowed to choose through the flat stock. You can choose the different width of what you're doing, but we're going for the whiteboards, obviously. And one good thing is they do have like really, really long ones so that we can go all the way across the wall without any cuts. So because we're gonna put the ones across first.
Yeah, so it's MDF and it's primed, so it makes it nice to paint.
So these are all the things that we picked up at Rona. Construction adhesive, caulking, as well as wood filler. You can get that caulking in white, however the wood filler just comes in a standard color. We also picked up these putty knives and of course all of the primed MDF boards. Getting the primed ones is important. Here's a complete list of everything that we used. You can just pause the video and copy it down. You'll start to see a couple of these come into play as we move through the process.
shoot small little, almost headless nails. You can hardly see them, very little hole. We're gonna use the nails, but we're also gonna put just a strip of, it's no more nails, it's like an adhesive. So we'll put some of this on so we won't have to use as many nails in the wood, and it'll keep it nice and tight. Show them into this. The tube, you can cut it to all different sizes. We don't really want a thick amount of glue, so we'll just do it maybe just on this one about 1/4 inch or so, like that. Okay. And then it's got a sealer, so where did this one go? And we'll just break. Hopefully it's going far enough. Yep, it did. And just have to wipe that off.
You don't have to completely cover the board in glue, but you're definitely adding some, and this really helps if you do have an extra person to help you, because one person can be holding the board and the other person can be administering the nails. Now as well, you're gonna add some in the in-between. Let's talk about that a little.
Yeah, studs are normally 16 inches apart, but if you you don't know where they are, this little stud finder. So there's one right there.
It's not 100% necessary to find a stud, but if you can, especially on those outer boards, it's definitely going to just assist in making sure your project is secure. Now you're also adding that glue and fitting those boards into each piece, and you're going to want to be measuring this as you go as well. Make sure that you're also pushing the board up while you are doing those nails so it is tight.
So the first step that we did when it comes to actually putting the batten on the wall is we got the frame set up. This is going to give you that starting point for all of your measurements. And by that, I mean, our next step is now to do those vertical slats. So we measured from the very end of our batten board to the next end, 118 inches. And this is part of the project, guys. Like, make sure you are measuring, because that's how you're gonna figure out where the next boards go. And also keep in mind the actual width of each individual board and account for that in your measurements.
So this is just a scrap piece of wood, so we can just use it to find out exactly where the boards are going. Okay? So it's 3.5, so we just measured over 1 3/4, which is the center of the board. We'll measure the wall, we'll find the center. I can just put it there and just start a line.
Okay, so this is the point in the video where things are actually going to be happening and things will be a little more exciting. You can see we've got the frame on the wall there, and now we are triple checking our measurements because the inside area is now going to be a little smaller because you're taking away the thickness of the board. An extra piece of board, if you cut that off, that's going to really help you. You'll probably have a residual piece anyways from the border that you've already done. That's going to really help you figure out the lineup. You can do some pre-done measurements by just using a pencil, and you can really make sure that you have got all of these pieces one by one all separated equally. We had a laser level and that helped out so much. If you have a friend or you have a laser level, use it. It's gonna help you for sure because you can see the top and the bottom of the board and make sure that it is even. But if you don't have it, you don't necessarily need it. But let's talk about one thing you do have to keep in mind.
One thing that we got so extremely lucky on this project, and you'll also have to keep in mind if you're doing this, is your outlets. We got so lucky that none of these boards got in there, but unfortunately if you do have one of them, you're gonna have to cut out a little square, and I've seen that happen a lot on Pinterest.
After you finish doing those vertical layers, you are now going to move on to the horizontal if that is what your design calls for. Now, this is a tip that we found, and I am going to show you this in just a moment's time in the video, but do you see those two boards we are measuring with? That is going to come in so key. Those two boards are going to be the exact same two boards we use throughout this entire process to measure every single square, and that's going to make sure that all of those vertical planks are matching up equally, because if one of those was off, it would make the wall look extremely weird. The annoying and exciting part of this project is having those perfect squares so it looks like you've actually put a boarding up on the wall that was already preset to be that, not that you're building it yourself. So these two are certainly a key piece.
Baby, how did you know I was walking here?
I could hear you, and so I put it on audible.
I was like, are you thinking it's gonna be like that?
How do you like it? So
Oh, it looks so good. How much are we paying this guy?
Continuing on with the rest of the project, we decided to do the center boards first and work our way on the outside because, as well, one thing to keep in mind, you're actually not going to want to pre-cut all of these little boards at once, which is why it took a little extra time, because some areas of your wall might be off a little bit. You wouldn't be able to tell by our finished project, but there's actually one section that is slightly larger than the other ones. Using a hammer to tap that board up as well is going to make sure that you have that perfect measurement with those two boards that you have been working with the entire time.
So what do you think for the average skill level of doing this project?
Yeah, I think if you just take your time, do the measurements right, and check them out, it's a nice, easy project. Maybe out of 10 out of 10, I'd say maybe a 6 out of 10.
It looks so good
Yeah,
already.
That's great. The main thing is just doing the math and getting your squares correct and thinking about where your cross pieces are going to be, and it'll look great.
I think one thing that we did really well that we kind of anticipated that maybe people would do this wrong or make the mistake is we started with the squares at the top. So if you guys note those squares at the top, there's 1, 2, 3 that are perfect. We used the exact same boards, and these boards,
To get the correct measurement.
yeah, let's show that.
Yeah.
Because this is kind of weird looking, but it's so great.
We put those in there,
So it's an optical
and then we
illusion
just
at
put this
first.
up.
So basically, those boards are the exact same length all the way across and up and down. So we just use the exact same two so that this matches up with that every single time.
Yeah, we just put it on there, nailed it on.
Here's the progress report, the full Batten. We have all of the boxes up right now, and my dad gave me homework, and the homework tonight is filling in these little holes, and then as well putting dab in between all of these seams and then sealing them up. Good morning, everyone. This is a project that takes a couple of days, and the reason why projects like this take a couple of days, it's because things take time to dry. So today we are now getting to the sanding. I have done all the wood filling in all of these little pieces in between the pieces, and then as well the dab in between the rest, so kind of sealing it to the wall. You would have seen a couple of cutaway shots to that, and as well a couple of tips when it comes to making sure you get your smoothest possible result from that. But there are a couple areas where it's a little bit of a lip. This one's actually quite good. This one's very smooth, but then this one, there's a little bit of a lip. So now my job, and your job if you're doing this project, is one, to make sure it's completely dry overnight, and then now we're going to sand. So I'm gonna get to sanding all of this, and then we're going to prime it, because likely sanding off some of that wood filler, which can be really tricky to get off sometimes, so don't like clump it on, my dad said. He said just really try and put it fine on, because it is like concrete when it finally dries. So we're gonna be sanding that down. It could take some of the paint off, which is totally fine because we're going to be priming it anyways, and then today we're picking up our color. We ended up using this hand sander, and it was so much fun, so oddly satisfying to watch all of those little bits get smoothed out, and it's just so easy. So if you don't have one of these and you can rent it for this job, or you can borrow it from someone you know, it's going to take a lot of the elbow grease out of actually making sure you have a smooth wall, especially because we're doing a dark color. A lot of those little kind of imperfections will show because of it, so I'm quite pleased.
We decided to prime the wall because already the color behind it was pretty dark, and this ensured that any extra little holes were filled as well.
The wall is primed. I just have a couple of bottom ones to go. And then we are going to get on to the actual painting job. So just for a little midday check-in, I am so pleased with the wall. It is fully primed and dry as well. We put on 2 of our like big fans while we went to lunch, and definitely recommend doing that.
There are a ton of paints that you can choose from. We ended up going with the Regal Selection by Benjamin Moore. It's right in the middle of the road, all-team matte finish, and I really loved the way that this one turned out. Pacific Sea Teal is the color that we went with, and it ended up being exactly the way that it looked on the chit.
We've finally gotten to the point where we get to add the colored paint. One thing I want to say to you guys, if you aren't sure about a color, don't even worry about it. You can always paint it again later. This one's quite bold, so I'm excited. I'll drop the kind of paint that we got below as well, and we got a matte finish that's supposedly going to be the best according to my dad, so let's get to it. All right, moment of truth. Do we like it? Ooh, it's very earthy. We'll 100% be putting more than 1 coat, obviously. At least 2. But this little roller is so helpful with getting the inside. I think my process for actually doing these squares during it is I will edge the corners first. I just wanted to do the roller for the first one for a dramatic effect, but I like it.
Be super diligent with taping, and of course cover the carpet. We ended up doing the baseboard the exact same color and 3 coats to get that really rich color. So there you go. There is the final project. Scotty and I are both really happy with this. One thing that I didn't expect when we finished this project is how much it pulled your eye upwards. The room now actually feels bigger. It feels taller because of this wall. And it also looks like a modern built-in, which I am so proud of. Even Scotty's dad thought that they were panels we put on, but no, you saw. This was piece by piece. You've totally got this project. You're gonna rock it. I hope that you enjoyed this video and it gives you everything that you need to do your own built-in. If you do end up doing it, be sure to tag us or comment below and even put your blog name there so I can check it out. Be sure to subscribe and we'll see you in the next one.